He was just a broke grad student tutoring to make ends meet. She was a single mom, guarded, exhausted, and quietly broken. Their worlds weren't meant to collide, but when a teenage boy's failing grades brought them under the same roof, something unexpected began. Not just learning, not just healing, but love, slow, quiet, and utterly transformative. What began as a job would become the chapter that changed everything. The house looked like it hadn't slept in weeks. Ethan Carter stood on the porch of the modest two-story home in a quiet Pasadena neighborhood, clutching a worn-out messenger bag stuffed with notebooks and a copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. The late afternoon sun draped the white siding in warm gold, but something in the air still felt heavy, like the house itself was holding its breath. He rang the bell and took a slow breath. This was the third tutoring gig he had picked up this month. Two were online. This one was different. He was meeting the student in person, a high school junior named Tyler Monroe, struggling with English, at risk of failing. He expected a grumpy teen. He didn't expect her. The door swung open, and standing there was Rachel Monroe, mid to late 30s, maybe auburn hair, pulled into a no-nonsense ponytail, deep eyes green or hazel. It was hard to tell in the shifting light. She wore navy blue scrubs, a tote bag slung over one shoulder, and tiredness like the armor. "You're Ethan." "Yes," he said, "from Westbridge Tutoring. We spoke on the phone." She nodded, exhaling like she'd been holding in that breath for hours. "Come in, Tyler's upstairs. I just got home from my shift. Sorry if the place is—" He stepped in. The entryway smelled faintly of lavender and something warm, maybe baked apples, but dishes were stacked in the sink. A backpack was spilled across the couch and mail piled on a corner table like it hadn't been sorted in weeks. "Don't worry," Ethan said gently. "I grew up in a house with four brothers. This is practically a spa." Rachel almost smiled. "Almost." She called loud and sharp, "Tyler, he's here!" Footsteps, a pause, then slower, reluctant steps descending the stairs. Tyler Monroe had his mother's intensity, but his was sharpened into something colder. Defense mechanisms welded together into a teenage shell. His hair was shaggy, his hoodie zipped halfway, eyes full of challenge. "This is Ethan," Rachel said. "He's going to help you with English so you don't bomb junior year." "I'm not bombing," Tyler muttered. Rachel's jaw tightened. "Just please try. I need to shower and change before my night shift. Ethan, you good here?" He nodded. "Got it." She turned and walked down the hallway, already peeling off her hospital badge. For a second, Ethan caught her rubbing her temple before she disappeared into the bedroom. Tyler led him to the kitchen table. They sat in awkward silence. The clock ticked too loudly. Ethan opened his notebook. "So you're reading Of Mice and Men?" Tyler grunted. "Yeah." "Gotten to the ending yet?" "No." "Then I won't spoil it, but if you like dark and sad, you're in for a treat." That got a half smile, and over the next hour, Ethan found his rhythm. He didn't lecture, he asked questions. Let Tyler talk about the parts he hated and the parts he secretly didn't found a way to make symbolism feel less like a punishment and more like a puzzle. When Rachel reappeared, now in jeans and a soft gray sweater, hair still damp, she froze in the hallway watching them. Tyler didn't notice, but Ethan did. Their eyes met. Rachel's expression softened just a fraction. "Looks like he hasn't thrown you out yet," she said, stepping into the kitchen. Ethan smiled. "Nah, he's letting me stay, for now." Tyler rolled his eyes but didn't correct him. Rachel poured herself coffee. It was nearly evening. "You're going back in?" Ethan asked, nodding at her scrubs draped over a chair. "Night shift," she said. "ICU nurse, 12 hours. "That's rough." She sipped and shrugged. "Pays the bills." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was just real. After a moment, Rachel cleared her throat. "Do you want something to eat? I was going to heat up some lasagna." "I don't want to intrude." "Then don't," she said simply. "Just eat." That night, Ethan stayed an hour after the session ended. They sat in the living room, plates balanced on knees, watching some old crime show rerun. Tyler disappeared upstairs after a while, muttering something about homework. Rachel didn't ask Ethan to leave, and he didn't want to. The second session happened 2 days later. Tyler opened the door himself this time, still gruff, still guarded, but he handed Ethan a Coke from the fridge without asking progress. Rachel was working late. When she returned halfway through, her eyes looked even heavier. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured a drink. "You okay?" Ethan asked, keeping his tone gentle. Rachel nodded, but it didn't reach her eyes. Rough night, lost a patient. Ethan hesitated, then, want to talk about it. Rachel looked at him for a long moment, not with suspicion, but like she was trying to remember the last time someone had asked her that and meant it. So she did talk a little. Ethan just listened. And when Tyler came down silent and pale and mumbled that he didn't get chapter 4's ending, Ethan didn't push. He handed him a fresh notebook and just said, draw it if you can't write it. Just get the feelings down. Tyler nodded and Ethan stayed again. By the end of the first week, it was a rhythm. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, he came for Tyler, stayed for Rachel, and something unspoken grew in the silences between them, in the coffee refills, the shared smiles, the quiet dinners on the couch with news playing low in the background. One evening, as he was leaving, Rachel walked him to the door. Thank you, she said. For what? For helping my son, and for being someone I don't have to pretend with. Ethan didn't know what to say, so he said the only thing that felt true. I see you, Rachel. And for the first time, her walls cracked just enough for him to see her too. The second tutoring session wasn't as rocky as the first, but it wasn't smooth either. Tyler sat stiffly at the dining table, barely speaking, his arms crossed again, though this time he'd at least brought his textbook. Ethan Carter, perched on the opposite side of the table, noticed the tension behind the boy's eyes, like someone ready to bolt if things got too real. So, Ethan said casually, you're doing Hamlet in class, right? Yeah, Tyler muttered, avoiding eye contact. It's stupid. Totally a prince who spends 4 acts talking to skulls instead of solving his problems. Overrated, Ethan joked, trying to soften the mood. Tyler cracked half a smirk. Progress. Ethan leaned in. But the cool part is how much Shakespeare says without saying it. Like how Hamlet never actually says he's grieving. He just talks about everyone else acting like they're over it too fast. That's real, isn't it? Tyler's eyes flicked toward Ethan, then back down. Yeah, people move on even when you're not ready. There it was. Ethan didn't push. Instead, he slid a pen toward Tyler. Want to rewrite the first soliloquy in your own words. Make it modern. Say what Hamlet should have said. Tyler didn't respond, but he took the pen. Rachel Monroe watched from the kitchen. She was in her scrubs hair, tied up, face tired in that way only nurses could be, like she'd given all her energy to everyone else, and now she was trying to salvage whatever was left for herself. She leaned against the counter, arms folded. Ethan noticed her watching. She smiled faintly, more an apology than a greeting. Later, as Tyler shuffled off to his room, mumbling a quiet thanks, Rachel walked Ethan to the door. You're good with him, she said, voice quieter than usual. Ethan shrugged, hoisting his bag over his shoulder. I was kind of that kid once. Rachel nodded, looking down the hallway where her son had disappeared. It's hard to watch him shut down like that. He was always so open, chatty even. The divorce, it did something to him. Ethan hesitated, then said, it probably made him feel like the ground wasn't solid anymore. Rachel blinked. That hit home. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. There was a silence between them, heavy but not uncomfortable. Rachel glanced up at Ethan, his eyes kind, his posture open. She cleared her throat. Do you want coffee? I just made a fresh pot. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. Oh, sure, I've got time. The kitchen felt warmer than before, more lived in. There were drawings stuck to the fridge from when Tyler was younger. Crayon Sun's lopsided trees, memories Rachel hadn't had the heart to take down. They sat across from each other, steaming mugs between them. Outside, dusk had painted the world a soft orange. You really studying literature? Rachel asked, wrapping her hands around her mug. Yeah, grad student and almost done, trying to make sense of all this. He gestured vaguely. The world words people. Rachel smiled. Let me know if you figure it out. He chuckled. I'll write you a thesis. A beat passed, then Ethan said, what about you nursing, right? Or Nurse County Hospital? Years now. Her tone was matter-of-fact, but Ethan sensed the weight beneath it. That sounds intense. She nodded. You get good at compartmentalizing. Until one day you can't, then you go cry in the break room and hope no one notices. Ethan didn't joke. You ever wish you'd done something else? Rachel paused. Sometimes, but I think helping people, it's in my bones. Even when I'm tired of it, I can't imagine not doing it. They looked at each other, the silence growing intimate. You always this honest with your son's tutor? Ethan asked, smiling. Rachel laughed, a real one this time. No, I don't usually even offer coffee. Well, he said, raising his mug, then I'm honored. By the third week, Tyler had gone from grunts to full sentences. He still wore his hoodie like armor, but now he argued about Shakespeare's themes and even asked a question or two. One afternoon, as Rachel returned home early from her shift, she stopped in the hallway listening. Ethan was reading a passage from Macbeth. Tyler interrupted with a sarcastic, so basically this guy loses his mind because his wife told him to kill the king. Ethan laughed. Exactly, lesson learned, don't ignore your conscience or marry Lady Macbeth. Rachel bit back a smile and walked into the kitchen. She didn't say anything right away, just stood there unnoticed until Tyler looked up. Hey, Mom, he said without that usual edge in his voice. Hey, baby, she replied, surprised by the warmth. As the session wrapped, Tyler went to his room again, and Ethan rose to leave. Rachel met him at the door just like last time, but this time she touched his arm gently. Thanks for whatever it is you're doing with him. Ethan shrugged. Just listening mostly. Well, she said, eyes softer now. Keep doing that, please. That Friday, Ethan stayed again, another mug of coffee, another dusk settling over the house. Rachel opened up more this time. She told him about her ex, how he'd grown distant, how she'd stayed too long out of fear, how the silence in her house felt louder than it should have. Ethan listened. He didn't offer platitudes. He didn't try to fix anything. He just heard her. I forgot what it feels like, Rachel said at one point, looking at her mug. What, he asked. To be seen. Ethan didn't look away. You're not invisible, Rachel. She looked up at on him. Something flickered between them, not quite a moment, but close. The next week, something shifted. Tyler asked Ethan if he wanted to stay for dinner. Rachel looked surprised but didn't object. She cooked something simple, pasta, garlic bread, a salad that only she touched. They laughed real laughter. Tyler made a joke that had them all groaning. Ethan told a ridiculous story from undergrad about getting locked in the university library overnight. Rachel laughed until she had tears in her eyes. That night, after Tyler had gone to bed, she poured 2 glasses of wine and invited Ethan to stay a bit longer. They sat on the back porch. Crickets chirped in the yard. A breeze rustled the trees. The stars stretched above them like secrets. Rachel swirled her wine. You're too easy to talk to. It's dangerous. Ethan looked at her. Why? Because I'm starting to forget how many walls I built. He smiled softly. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. She looked at him. Really looked then, just as quickly she looked away. Later, as Ethan drove home, his thoughts spun. This wasn't what he'd expected when he signed up to tutor, but something about Rachel, the way she carried her sadness like armor, the way her eyes softened when she looked at her son, the way she made him feel present, pulled him in. And for the first time in a long while, he didn't want to run from something real. He wanted to stay even if it scared him, even if it wasn't part of the plan. The rain came suddenly slicing across the city like a mood shift. Ethan stood on Rachel's porch. His hoodie soaked his breath, visible in the early spring chill. He wasn't supposed to be there today. It wasn't a tutoring night. But after Tyler's sudden outburst at school, Ethan had received a hurried call from Rachel asking if he could come over. He had a feeling it wasn't about algebra. She opened the door before he knocked, already in her scrubs, but uncharacteristically flustered. Her hair was slightly damp, likely from dashing home from the hospital, and her usual guardedness flickered into something closer to panic. Thanks for coming, she said, stepping aside. He's locked himself in his room again. Ethan stepped inside, brushing water from his sleeves. Rough day. She nodded. Principal called. Tyler nearly punched a kid. Apparently the kid made some joke about how he gets special treatment since his mom works nights. I'm sorry, Ethan said softly. Do you want me to try talking to him? Rachel hesitated. He listens to you more than he does me lately, but I don't want to put that on you. You're his tutor, not his therapist. Ethan gave her a gentle smile. Sometimes the best tutors are just people who listen. She looked at him like she wanted to believe that maybe even needed to. Tyler didn't answer at first when Ethan knocked. It's me, Ethan said calmly through the door. I'm not here to lecture you, just wanted to say hi. Nothing. Then a beat later, the door creaked open. Tyler didn't look angry, just exhausted. His eyes were red, his jaw tight. He sank back onto his bed like the weight of the world sat on his shoulders. I hate that school, Tyler muttered. I hate everything. Ethan sat in the desk chair across the room. You want to talk about it? No. Ethan nodded. Okay, then we can just sit. Tyler stared at him. Why are you even here? Because your mom was worried, and because I care. Tyler scoffed, but not cruelly. You've only been here a few weeks. And yet here I am, Ethan said, folding his hands. And I'm not going anywhere. There was a long silence, then Tyler's shoulders dropped. I thought it would get easier after the divorce, Tyler said quietly. Like no more fighting, no more pretending things were fine. But now it's just empty. She works all the time. I barely see her, and when I do, she's too tired to even talk. Ethan didn't interrupt. Tyler looked up. Is it wrong to be mad at her for doing her best? No, Ethan said. It's human. She's trying to hold everything together, but that doesn't mean your feelings don't matter. Tyler blinked fast like he might cry again, but he didn't. Instead, he nodded once. Thanks. Rachel was making tea when Ethan returned to the kitchen. She looked up, searching his face for some clue. He's hurting, Ethan said, but he's not broken. Rachel poured a second mug and handed it to him. Neither am I, she whispered. They sat in silence at the kitchen table, the steam from their mugs curling between them. Outside, the rain tapped gently against the window panes. The tension in the house had shifted softer now, like something had let go. I keep telling myself I'm doing okay, Rachel said after a while. Bills are paid, Tyler's still in school. I'm working double shifts, but keeping up. She laughed hollow. But I don't remember the last time I did something for myself, something that wasn't about surviving. Ethan tilted his head. When was the last time you read something that wasn't a patient chart? She smirked. Are you assigning me homework? Maybe, he teased. Her smile lingered softer now. You know, she said, wrapping her fingers around the mug, I used to love reading poetry before life happened. Then you should start again. She shook her head. That part of me feels like it belongs to someone else now. Ethan leaned forward slightly, his voice lower. Rachel, you're still here. That part of you didn't die. She's just waiting for permission to come back. There was a pause, long loaded. Then Rachel whispered, You're kind, Ethan, and a little dangerous. He blinked. Dangerous. Because you make me remember things I promised myself I'd forget. Their eyes held. Later, as Ethan walked back to his car umbrella swaying in the mist, he felt that something had shifted. Not just between Tyler and him, but between Rachel and him, a closeness that wasn't about necessity or politeness, but understanding. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt more than needed. He felt seen. And he wasn't entirely sure if that scared him or thrilled him. Probably both. The week after Ethan and Rachel's late-night heart-to-heart unfolded like a quietly simmering storm. The tutoring sessions continued, but Tyler seemed changed sharper, more engaged, like something had started to mend. Ethan noticed how the boy's sarcasm now came laced with curiosity instead of resentment. Occasionally, Tyler even cracked a joke, and Ethan didn't miss how Rachel watched from the kitchen, half hidden behind the doorframe, a small smile on her face. But nothing had been said between Ethan and Rachel about that night, about the way her fingers had lingered on his wrist, or how he hadn't wanted to leave. It made things strangely more intimate and yet more fragile. Tuesday evening, as a thunderstorm rolled in over the neighborhood, Ethan arrived with soaked shoes and a stack of Hamlet quotes. You look like you've wrestled Poseidon, Rachel said, as she handed him a towel at the door. Just trying to impress the gods of Shakespeare. Rachel chuckled. I'll make coffee. You two work your magic. Tyler was in a better mood than usual. Still quiet, still Tyler, but open. The storm outside made the living room feel cozier than normal, the lamps glowing against the windows, raindrops streaking down the glass. As they wrapped up a discussion about tragic flaws and father figures, Tyler shifted uncomfortably. Hey, he said, eyes darting to the floor, do you think people ever stop being scared to start over? The question landed like a brick in Ethan's chest. He looked at the boy, 16, tired, hopeful, too old in the eyes, but so young in the voice. I think, Ethan said slowly, they're always scared, but sometimes the fear means it matters. Sometimes it's a sign you're stepping into something real. Tyler nodded, his face unreadable, but he didn't push away when Ethan clapped him on the shoulder. Later. After the session ended, Rachel walked Ethan out. The rain had softened into a drizzle. I heard what he asked, she said, folding her arms against the chill. Ethan smiled, half surprised. He's brave. Rachel hesitated. So are you. That pause, that hum between silence and action, the moment stretched, and Ethan took a breath. Then the porch light flickered, and the moment cracked. Good night, Rachel said softly. Her eyes said more. She turned before he could. By Friday, everything felt unsettled again. Ethan was grading undergrad essays at his apartment when his phone buzzed. It was Rachel. Can you come early tonight? Tyler's not talking. Something happened at school. Ethan's heart skipped. He grabbed his bag and keys without even responding. When he arrived, Rachel looked pale, not panicked, just drained like a balloon that had been slowly losing air all day. He got in a fight, she said. Some kid called him something about his dad. Ethan's stomach dropped. He knew the story. Rachel's ex-husband hadn't been violent, but he'd been cruel in quieter ways, passive, absent. Tyler carried the ghost of him like a scar. He won't talk to me, Rachel added, brushing her hair behind her ear, but he asked if you were coming. That hit Ethan harder than he expected. He found Tyler upstairs, sitting on the floor of his room, earbuds and staring at the wall. Ethan didn't say anything at first. He just sat down beside him. After a minute, Tyler pulled out one earbud. You ever punch someone? Ethan blinked. I tackled a guy once sophomore year. He was picking on my roommate. Did it help? Not really, but it shut him up. Tyler smirked faintly. I didn't start it, he said. I didn't even say anything. I don't know, it was like all this stuff just came out. Ethan nodded. Anger doesn't always knock. They sat in silence for a while longer. You're not mad, Tyler finally asked. Ethan shook his head. I think you're carrying too much, and I think you don't know how to set it down. That was when Tyler's eyes welled up just barely. No sobbing, just moisture that clung there, like he hadn't decided whether it was safe to fall. You should talk to your mom, Ethan said. Tyler rubbed his face. She's already dealing with everything. Maybe, but that doesn't mean she doesn't want to deal with you. Tyler nodded, quiet, but something in him softened. Downstairs, Rachel met Ethan's eyes. He's okay, Ethan said, or getting there. She looked like she might cry again, but she didn't. Instead, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. It wasn't romantic, not exactly. It was just real. A moment where two people held each other upright. That Sunday, Ethan went to a local book festival, half out of habit and half out of escape. It had been a long week. He wandered the booths aimlessly until he heard someone call his name. Rachel. She wore a navy peacoat, jeans, and that rare, genuine smile that lit her. From within, Tyler was with her too, holding a paper bag with bookmarks sticking out. I didn't expect to see you here, she said. I could say the same. They strolled the rows together, talking about poetry and cheesy cover art. Tyler eventually drifted toward a comic stand, giving them space. He's been better, Rachel said as they walked. Ethan smiled. I've noticed. She looked at him, then really looked. You've done more than just tutor him, you know. Ethan swallowed. You've done more than just raise him. The wind carried silence between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. You want to grab coffee? She asked. Ethan's heart tripped over itself. Yeah, I'd love that. They sat at a little outdoor table sipping lattes under the thin winter sun. Tyler had his headphones in again, seated at the edge of the patio, pretending not to watch them while definitely watching them. I think, Rachel said, staring into her cup. I forgot what it's like to laugh with someone. Ethan leaned forward. You're really good at it. She blushed. Don't be charming. I'm not trying to be, he said. You just make it easy. She laughed, but it faded quickly. I'm scared, Ethan. Of what? Of wanting something again, of screwing it up. Ethan nodded. I'm scared too. They sat there, the air full of maybes and what-ifs. Let's be scared together, he finally said. Rachel looked up. Then slowly she reached across the table and took his hand. Rachel stood at the window, staring into the street where early spring had begun to bloom. The wind rustled the new leaves, but her mind wasn't on the weather. It was on a man who hadn't been just a tutor, not for a long time now. Ethan hadn't shown up for his usual Wednesday session with Tyler. No call, no text, nothing. He hadn't been back since that night on the porch, the night their kiss had happened, gentle and electric and full of things neither of them had dared speak aloud. He had whispered, I don't want to complicate your life. And Rachel, scared of how deeply she wanted him to stay, had only nodded. And now silence. In the kitchen, Tyler sat at the table with the notebook open, but he wasn't studying. He kept glancing at the clock, then back to the door. He's not coming, is he? Rachel turned from the window. Maybe he just needed space. Tyler gave her a look, one that for a 16-year-old was surprisingly adult. You guys kissed. You think I don't know that? She flushed. It's complicated, Ty. No, it's not. You liked him. He liked you, and for once someone treated you like you mattered. His voice cracked, and suddenly his tough front wavered. I liked him too. He believed in me. He didn't talk down to me. He made you smile again. Rachel sat beside him, heart sinking. I know. Tyler stared down at his lap. I think he left because of me. No, she said, immediately reaching for his hand. This has nothing to do with you. If anything, he stayed longer because he cared about you. Tyler nodded slowly. So go tell him. You always tell me to fight for what matters, right? She hesitated. Then a fight for him. Ethan was on campus sitting beneath a blooming magnolia tree rereading The Great Gatsby, or pretending to. In truth, he hadn't read a single sentence. He just kept seeing Rachel's face that night, the way her lips had trembled right before she kissed him back, then the fear in her eyes after the guilt, the boundaries. He thought pulling away was the right move. Maybe it still was. But then someone called his name. He turned and saw her, Rachel, hair tousled by the wind, breathless like she'd run. He stood quickly. Rachel. Don't say anything, she said, walking up to him. Not yet. He waited. She took a shaky breath. You disappeared. I didn't want to hurt you. You already mattered. To me, to Tyler. You didn't just help him with his homework, Ethan. You helped me remember who I am. His throat tightened. I didn't know if I was allowed to want this, she continued, voice softer now, to want someone younger, to want someone at all. But I do. I want you. Even if it's messy, even if we have to figure it out one step at a time. He didn't answer. Instead, he closed the distance between them and kissed her right there under the blooming magnolia with students walking by and spring sunlight catching the gold in her hair. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against hers. You were never a complication, Rachel. You were the reason I finally started living again. Weeks passed. Tyler's grades improved his confidence too. He even applied to a summer creative writing program, something Ethan had encouraged. Ethan no longer came just on Wednesdays. He was around for Sunday dinners, for late-night coffee on the porch, for walks with Rachel, where nothing needed to be said. They didn't label it. They just let it be what it was, a second chance for both of them. One afternoon, Tyler came into the living room to find Ethan reading on the couch, Rachel asleep beside him, her head on his shoulder. Tyler didn't say anything, just picked up his backpack, quietly grabbed his notebook, and smiled as he slipped out the door. Sometimes real stories didn't need chapters or conclusions. Sometimes they just needed the courage to begin. The story of Ethan, Rachel, and Tyler teaches us a powerful lesson. Love and healing often bloom in the quiet, unexpected corners of life when we dare to truly see and be seen. Ethan, a grad student scraping by, didn't just tutor Tyler. He listened, offering a lifeline to a teen wrestling with pain. Rachel, a wary single mom, found in Ethan's presence a reminder that her heart still had room for hope. Their connection, built on shared silences, late-night talks, and small acts of care, shows that love doesn't need to be loud or perfect. It thrives in authenticity and patience. Tyler's courage to open up and Rachel's bravery to embrace vulnerability, despite her fears, remind us that rebuilding after loss is a messy, beautiful journey. This story urges us to hold space for others, to offer kindness without expectation, and to trust that even broken hearts can mend when given time and care. In a world that rushes past pain, Ethan and Rachel's story is a call to pause, to connect, and to find strength in the real, unpolished moments that make us human. Let their journey inspire you to seek out the people who make you feel alive, and to never shy away from a second chance at love. What resonated with you in Ethan and Rachel's story? Has a quiet connection ever changed your life? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We can't wait to hear your story. If this tale touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell to join our community of storytellers. Your support keeps these stories of hope alive. Let's keep the love growing together.